Hello and welcome. My name is Colm Jackson, and I am going to talk to you about my new product, the Genesis 9 Skin Detailer. Thank you, first of all, for purchasing the product. Um, what this product does, it basically you can take any skin texture for Genesis 9 and it's an overlay system where you can overlay all sorts of detail from freckles and moles and skin detailing um, to create a much more real looking character. When I say real, basically what I mean is that most people don't have perfect skin, and that's the idea we're going for. We're going to go for that look where there are blemishes and marks and bumps and things that give the character more character. So let's delve straight into it. We're going to start off with the head. Now, there are four PSD files. One for the head, one for the body, one for the arms, and one for the legs. And they're all built up of many layers. And they are separated into the base layer, the skin overlay layer, the freckles layer, and the moles layer. So the base layer is basically where you're going to put your skin texture that you want to customize. So where you're seeing this on the screen now, you're going to replace that layer or layer on top of that layer the skin texture that you're going to customize. On top of that, we have the base layer, the skin overlay layer. Now this contains lots of the underlying detail. You have skin mottling. Skin is made up of different shades of mottling and different sizes of mottling. So there's dark mottling, light mottling, fine light mottling, and fine dark mottling. You can, if you're making an older character, there's a set of age spots, spider veins, acne, which is always useful if you're creating a younger character that might have some teen skin issues. Again, older people tend to have veins on their nose. There's a set of three different eye wrinkles, and the eye wrinkles are underneath the lower eyelid. So basically, if the skin texture you're using has eye wrinkles, you can replace them with these, which adds a little bit of a difference to your character again. And then there are eye veins. We'll go through these more when I'm showing you exactly what they do and how to use them. There is a massive set of freckles, especially on the head. There are full face freckles, different parts of the face, the nose, the cheek, the chin, the upper lip, the forehead, the eyelids, and the ears. In total, I think there are 68 different head layers on this PSD. On the body there are 29, on the arms there are 16, and on the legs there are 15. On top of the freckles there are the moles. Moles come in all different shapes and sizes and in different positions on the skin, so there's plenty to play around with there. And I'm going to show you also how to customize things like the moles, because especially with the moles and freckle layers, you can definitely do a lot of customization. You can cut out moles and move them around. You can erase moles. You can layer the moles on top of each other. You can change the color. And with the freckles, you can erase areas of them if you don't want them to be so dense. Although there are layers of dense freckles and layers of not so dense freckles, light and heavy. Another thing I'd like to mention is there are a set of, on each PSD, a set of full body overlays. Now, they come under the full body category, and each one ends with FB. Now, these are very important because when you use these, you have to make sure that on each of the 4 different PSDs that you're overlaying onto your head, arms, body, and legs, that each one matches perfectly. Because if they don't match perfectly, you're going to get seams where these layers are. So take, for example, the dark mottling layer. That's set at the moment here to 35%. So if I just turn that up to 100%, you can basically see it more, hopefully, there on the screen. So if you have that, we'll say, set to 35%, and you use that same layer on the body, the arms or the legs, you have to make sure it's set to 35%. If it's set to 50%, you're going to get a seam where the body parts join in the texture set. Exactly the same goes if you want to change the levels or the hue and saturation, say for example, of a particular layer, that one of the FB layers, the full body layers. If I created an adjustment layer for the levels, and I wanted to say increase the contrast, I would then save that adjustment layer as a levels preset and save it to a location wherever on your computer, and then when you come to do the other 3 texture sets, the legs, the body, and the arms, you would add your adjustment layer to the dark mottling full body layer, and then load in the levels preset so it would match exactly the same as you did with the head. So that's very important, that whatever you changes excuse me, that you make to these layers, that you match them on all 4 textures. This only applies to the full body layers. So let's get rid of that adjustment layer there. There we go. Okay, so let's make a start. So if we go back to our base layer here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in the G9 Genesis 9 Feminine 1 head diffuse texture into Photoshop. You can find that in your Genesis 9 content structure in textures, DAS, characters, Genesis 9 base, Feminine 1. You can use obviously any Genesis 9 texture set, and this is especially made for merchant resources. Don't forget that, you know, if you're customizing a texture set, you can use this on anyone, as I said, but you can't sell something that is not a merchant resource that you've already purchased. So, but for this exercise, we're just going to use the Genesis 9 Feminine 1 diffuse texture. So I'm going to drag that into Photoshop there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that on top of the base layer there. Now you can delete the base layer if you want. We'll leave it on for now. So let's just get rid of this one here. Okay, so here we have the Genesis 9 texture. So we're going to start in order of how they're laid out. I'm going to use the navigator there to zoom in so as we can see it a little bit clearer. I'm going to start with some pores. So these are large dark pores. Now if you turn them up to 100%, they look pretty ridiculous. So the idea with doing any work like this is to be subtle and to just add little bits at a time, because everything you add all builds up into making the final customization. If you do something too much, you're going to load it into DAZ Studio and render it, and you're going to say, oh wow, those freckles are too dark or too light, or something like that. So just little tiny bits. So we're going to put these in at about, we'll start off, I'd say, at 10%. So if I zoom in there and we say, look at the, just above the eyes there, and I take that on and off, you should be able to see the difference. So that's some large pores, large dark pores. So we're going to now add some large light pores, because not all pores are dark. So let's turn them up and see what we get. Okay. So these are lighter, as in they're smaller and very subtle. So we're going to add them in there at about 14%. The main thing is that when you switch it on and off, the layer on and off, you can actually see some difference going on there. We can always go back and readjust these if we think it's not looking right. So I'm going to add some large white pores now. So let's turn the opacity up on this, and we got to just blend that in nicely there. Okay, so now we have some pore detail. Let's add a little bit more, some dark, small dark pores. And these, as you can see, are mainly around the nose and cheek area. So let's zoom in there. I think they're a little bit too dark. We don't want it to have a dark splodge in the middle of her face. So let's take that down to about 32%. And put in some small white pores to compensate for the dark ones, which will give them some contrast. So we got that 17%. A little bit more, I think. Okay, great. There we have our base pores set up, our overlay for the pores. So I can turn that on and off here. And if I zoom in, you should be able to see the difference there. So there's the pores overlay all mixed together. Okay, so now we're going to, we have a red cheek and eyelids overlay. Most people's skin is redder around the eyelids and the cheeks. As you can see here on the Daz texture, it is redder anyway. So we may not actually keep this, but I'll just show you that the effect it has. So if we turn that up, it's too high. There. So that will add that red detail. I'm going to leave that one off now, and this is a white detail layer which will compensate with the red, and blending them together will give a much more natural look, but we're not going to use those for these. Now this is going on to the full body skin overlays. So we got some more mottling, and let's see, these are already preset at certain percentages that I personally think are a good starting point for these details. If I zoom in here, you should be able to see the dark mottling effect there. So we leave that at 35%. You can put it at anything you want. Just remember to match the full body layers up that you use with on all the other body parts. And we're going to put some light mottling in. The light mottling is set at 40%. So let's take that down to I think we'll just leave it at 40%. And then we've got some fine mottling, light and dark. That's set at 49%. See, these are much smaller skin detail marks. Skin is made up of all different kinds of mottling and marks. It's not as beautifully pure as we often see in renders. It's nice to have something that is a little bit more realistic. So let's set that to 50%. And we'll add some more fine dark mottling. We'll leave that at 50% too. So we're going to move on to, we're not going to use the age spots in this demonstration, but I'll just show you them while we're here. So for older characters, you can add in, now these are big age spots. So depending on how old your character is and how many age spots they have, you can adjust the intensity there. Now, age spots come in different types too, so there are lighter, smaller ones included as well. There you go. So you can age a character with these spots. Just to quickly show you that if you, for example, don't want an age spot in a certain place, you can erase it just like you can any other object. So say this big one here, we could just take that out. Just be careful on the ones that are on the lower part of the texture and around the edges, the seams. Don't erase them because they're joining onto other age spots on other body parts. But you can do anything you like with these age spots that are not around the seams. And for example, you could also you could darken one. So we could say select say this one here, use a selection tool there, and we could adjust it with levels and make that one a little bit more pronounced than the others. So there's all sorts of ways of customizing. Another great way of customizing is, say for example, I was not happy with this age spot here under the eye, but I wanted it in a different position. I can select that using one of the selection tools. I'm using the rectangular one at the moment. And if I press Control or Command T on my keyboard, it brings up the Translate tool. Now with the Translate tool, you can scale it, you can rotate it, and you can move it to anywhere you want on that layer. Just press Enter and then deselect, and your age spot is moved. And this goes for the same for moles. It's very, very handy for moles because moles are, for any age group, you'll be using the moles, and you may not like exactly where a certain mole is and want to move it to a different place or rotate it or resize it or something like that. So I'll just demonstrate that quickly again. So you use the selection tool. You can use the rectangular or the elliptical, or you could use the polygon lasso or something like that, just to select the particular part. And then it's Control T on the keyboard, Command T, and you can then just move that anywhere you like. You can scale it down press enter and deselect, Control D, and there you go, that's moved. So we'll turn off the age spots and we'll move on now to spider veins. Now, people do have veins showing on their face. We don't tend to notice them unless they're very, very pronounced, but they are there, and it's amazing how much they make a difference in the detail. So there are three sets of spider veins. There are two for around the cheek area, which are exactly the same, but one is blurred and one is sharp. And there are spider veins for around the side of the head. So let's add some spider veins there to the around the cheek area. So they're already set at 40%. So there, that's them on full. Now we're not going to use them on full. So let's take them down to maybe 50%. See if we can, yes. So if we move in closer, 100%. There. And we're going to add some spider veins to the head area too. They're set at 30% default. So let's just bring them up slightly. I might actually just exaggerate this a little bit, just so you can actually see what's going on. So I've set them at 34%. They're on both sides of the head. Turn them on and off. Now, there are different sets of acne. The acne can be used as acne. It can also be used as another detail layer that is, you know, the opacity would be turned down very low just to add a little bit more grunge to the skin. But also, it is acne. So then we got some cheek acne there. Some of the acne covers the entire face, like this one. Obviously we wouldn't, not many people would have acne that bad, but if we turn that opacity down, we can just have it used as skin blemishing. And I'll maybe put that at 30%. Let's see if we can see a difference there. Yes. So I'm going to use acne 2. I'll just quickly show you acne 3 and acne 4. They're less again. And acne 4 is less again. That's nice forehead, chin and cheeks acne. And again, you can erase all different elements, move different elements in these layers, especially things like the acne as well. So for this one, we're just going to use the acne 1 as, there we go. No, sorry, it was acne 2, wasn't it? Yeah, acne 2 as a blemish layer. So nose veins. People have veins in their noses. They tend to be a different color, mainly to the blue cheek and head veins. They tend to be more red. So we'll just turn that on full and bring it down. And we'll set it at about 26%. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Now I've included 3 eye wrinkles layers. These areas here under the eyes, on the DAS texture, they have creases, lines, wrinkles, whatever you want to call them. So we can change them, which will help change the look of our character. So let's try eye wrinkles 1. You see? Now, you might find with different texture sets, this product was built around the DAS Feminine 1 texture set, female Feminine 1 texture set. But with other texture sets, you may have to blend these eye wrinkles by changing the levels to match the skin tone of the texture set you're using. I think a little bit of contrast on there looks nice. Maybe take a little bit of the red out with the saturation there, and hue and saturation. Just reduce it slightly and it blends in nicely. So there's the difference there with those. There are 3 of those. This one is much smoother. Again, you can see that one is actually quite light. So you might want to play with the levels of that a little there. See, that blends in nicely now. There we go. And then Eye Wrinkles 3. This is an older set, and that's quite light. So let's go to image levels, bring down the brightness slightly. Bring up the contrast. There. And there you instantly have older eyes. And you can blend that in with the original, doesn't have to be at 100%. So let's say 80%. So all these little bits of detail all add up to a lot of changes. So let's use Eye Wrinkles 1. So we've finished with the skin overlays. So if we turn them on and off, you can see there's a huge difference. In fact, most of the freckles that are on the original Genesis 9 feminine texture there pretty much disappear into the background. So now we have freckles full body. Now, again, these are the same as the other full body textures. You have to match them, all the layers exactly the same. So we have head and body dark, head and body light, head and body large. Now we don't know what we're actually going to be doing yet with the full body freckles. So maybe we should leave them until we tackle the full body texture itself. Okay, let's move on to the face freckles. So we have full face light. Okay, so they are very small, fine freckles. Now these don't, because they're not full body, they don't go anywhere near the seams. They're concentrated around the face area. So if I turn that on and off, you should be able to see the difference. So we leave that like that. And there's full freckles light too. Now you may not want to use all of these, but I'm just giving you a demonstration of what most of them look like. So we'll just leave that 42%. We may stay away from some of these other denser ones now that we have all them. So I'll just quickly go through a few of them. These are very dense. So be very careful with them. You don't want to use them at a very high opacity. Um, these are bigger freckles. Some of them can be quite nice. So let's add them in at 25%. Full face large. These are very large blemish freckles. So let's take them down to about 29%. And then we have different parts of the face. Nose. We have denser nose freckles. Nose and cheek. More nose and cheek. That's a nice one. Well, they're all nice, but nose and inner cheek. This is one of my favorites, nose and cheek natural. I think I'll leave some of them in. Yes. So we've got much more cheek there, cheek heavy, cheek light, cheek large, cheek outer, heavy and light. Now, an area here that is not very freckly is the upper lip. So we have two upper lip sets. One is a light set. Don't tend to get too many freckles above the upper lip, but we do get some. And then there's a heavier one, thicker freckles. I think just a tiny bit of them, 39% maybe. Yeah. And then we're onto the chin. The chin is quite freckly with all the full face ones that we've added. So let's try chin heavy. No. Chin light. I think we'll just use a little bit of chin light. And then we're going to move on to the forehead. Forehead is got quite a lot going on, so we don't want to overdo it. Forehead dense. I like them. I like the big ones. Yeah, so we just have a few of them, 21%. And then the eyelid areas, they still get freckles. So just like other parts of the face. So let's add a little bit of freckling there. You can see it better if I turn it on full. Little bit of freckling there on the eyelids. Something I'd like to mention is that if you're working with a darker skin, you might find that the freckles are not showing as well. One good trick for that is if you turn it on to 100% and then you right click on the layer and you say duplicate layer, they instantly become darker. And you can duplicate the layer again and they're darker again. And if you want, you could actually select all three layers and you can merge those layers into one layer. Another thing you might find with darker skins is that you may need to change the color or the levels of the freckles and the moles. But that's all part of the fun of it. So we don't need to do that on this actual texture set. So I'm going to delete those two layers I just created and turn down the opacity on the eye layer here. Right, so we have more full face textures here, large ones, I believe. Yes. So these are large, very sparsely scattered big freckles. They're more like moles. We'll just use the one, I think. Large, full face, large, sparse one. There. That's nice. And we mustn't forget the ears. The ears get freckles too. So we got a light set for the ears. I'll just zoom in there. See that? And heavier for the ears. I think we'll go a little bit of heavy, say 28%, and a little bit of light. There. So turning the freckles on and off. There we can see, what we've added on top of the blemishes overlays. So we're down to the last part now, which is the moles. There are so many moles layers that kind of spoiled for choice here. So they're all switched on, as in they have opacity. Usually I think it's 100 on them all, just so as it's easier for you to click through them and see exactly where they are. Some of them are just a single mole, like this one above the lip. And of course, like I stated earlier, we can select that mole there and Control T, Command T, and we can move it to the other side of the face if we want. We can rotate it around the other way. Deselect, Control D, and we have that mole on the other side of the face. I think we'll go with mole 6 here. This is one of my favorites. So we have 12 layers of facial moles. They're not all set at 100%. I thought they were. I had to go through them and fix that. This is obviously a pre-release copy. So there are different styles and different sizes of moles. And of course, you can duplicate them like we did before, make them darker. Delete that. I think for now, we're just going to use moles 6 and 7. Actually, on mole 6, I would like to move this freckle. So I'm going to select the area, Control T, Command T, and just move that, mole, not freckle, move it elsewhere. Deselect, Control D. Now we have a full body mole layer. This will basically put moles around the neck area of our texture, which will match up to the full body moles in the body, arms and legs. So we turn that one on. We'll leave that one on because we're going to use the full body molds most likely. Okay, so I think we've pretty much finished the detailing for now on this. If we drag in the G9 feminine, we can do a comparison. I'm just going to drag this in on top of the molds layer, just temporarily. By the way, if you hold down the shift key and drag, your texture will land completely in place. So if I just move that up there, if we turn this on and off, we can actually see that what we've done is changed this head texture pretty much into a completely different head texture, which is pretty cool. And can't be more than 15-20 minutes it took to do that. One thing I forgot to mention is that there are eye veins. There they are. So if you notice on the DAS texture, you can't actually see them very well now, but the eyelids have a vein, red vein structure. Some merchant resource texture sets, well, most will have very, very little detail. So you may need to add some eye veins into the mix. So I'm going to add those ones in there because the DAS ones have almost disappeared. Right, so there is our head texture completed. So what we're now going to do is we are going to move on to the body. Now the body texture. So we just wait for there we go, skin detailer, body PSD to load. I can't actually show you the body texture creation process due to the nudity that is on the original texture map. But what I can show you is how the full body layers are actually matched up. So if we go back to the head and we have a look at the full body area of the skin overlays, this area here, skin overlays, full body, and we go through each layer, we're looking at the opacity of each layer. And don't forget, if you've made any other changes, you have to take that into account as well. So here on the body PSD, we have the same skin overlays, full body overlays, as we do on the head. Let me just resize that. So on the head, the dark mottling was set to 35, the light mottling was set to 40. So let's do that on here. They may already be set to that. 35, 40. The dark mottling fine was set to 25. Sorry, the light mottling fine was set to 50, and the dark mottling fine was set to 25. So light 50, dark 25. Light 50, dark 25. They're already preset, but you can change them to whatever you want yourself. Now, with those both set up like that and doing exactly the same on the arms and on the legs, you're guaranteed to get no seams in with using those layers, because they were done in Substance Painter, and the seams were completely painted over when those layers were made. They were painted over with the mottling, so they all match up. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to finish the video now, but I'm going to move on and create the skin for the skin overlay for the body and the skin overlay for the arms and legs, and I'm then going to get back to you with the in DAZ Studio and show you basically what they look like and how to load them in. So I'll be right back. Well, here we are in DAZ Studio, and I've loaded up the Genesis 9 female. I've put on her Genesis 9 Skin 1 matte, which is the one we were working on in Photoshop. Back in Photoshop, I have created the legs, the body and the arms textures, and I've saved them all out, including the Genesis 9 texture as a base. You could actually save them without the base and use them as LIEs as well, but just to make this go a lot quicker, I actually saved them with the Genesis 9 Feminine Skin 1 matte already, and also you may want to create the head is made up of two main textures, the diffuse texture and the translucency texture, the base color here and the translucency. The translucency is usually a little bit lighter than the diffuse. I haven't done that in this demonstration just for speed's sake, but where you loaded in the textures for the head, body, arms and legs onto the base layer in Photoshop, you could, after you've saved out your diffuse JPEGs to load onto the texture, you could replace the diffuse texture with the translucency texture and save out a different translucency map that would be lighter too. So, but I haven't done that, so we're just going to use the same diffuse texture on both the base color channel and the translucency color channel. So we're going to start putting in the textures here. So have a good look at the Genesis 9 female here, what she looks like without the skin detailer overlays. So first of all, I'm going to drag the head into the base color and then drag it into the translucency color. Now instantly you can see there's a difference. I mean, you can see the seam here from the head and the body, and there's a lot more detail on the face. So let's go to the body here and drag that one in onto the base color and the translucency color, and now you can see the seams between the head and the body completely disappear. So let's do the arms here, and just drag them on. And again, there's absolutely no join between the head, the body and the arms. And moving down to the legs, so we'll just drag the legs on now. Make sure the legs are actually selected and drag them on here. And bingo, absolutely no seams whatsoever. So there you have it. Now what we could do is we can duplicate the Genesis 9 figure there. Duplicate duplicate nodes hierarchies, I think is the one. This will take a second, and we can put them both side by side and compare them to each other. Okay. So basically it looks like they have two completely different texture sets on. If you're a content creator and you're making a commercial product, you're obviously going to want to change the lips with something completely different, and the eyes and the brows, and make it your own. Bear in mind, I did mention this before, make sure that if you're making a commercial product that you are using a base texture that is a merchant resource or something that you have created yourself. But as you can see, Skin Detailer does an amazing job of turning a excellent texture that the Genesis 9 default texture is into a much more dynamic and in my opinion much more realistic real life texture. I hope you understand how to use this product. It's actually very simple, and once you get into the workflow, you'll find that you can create details like this in half an hour for all the 4 textures that are involved on the Genesis 9 body and head, the body and head parts of the figure. So enjoy and have great great success using this product, and thank you very much for listening. Bye now.